everyone to this episode of At AI.Law, which is sponsored by the Success Partner. So we have today, I'm super excited to have Colin Levy in the studio. And he is an author and a speaker, and he's very well versed in the legal tech ecosystem. So as you can imagine, before we started the call, we've been just going haywire on and talking about that. But I really want to bring in Colin's expertise to our listeners today. And so let's dive in. Colin, you're one of the pioneers in this. So what can you tell us? What's going on with the legal tech industry?
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is over the past couple of years, a little more so than that, it's the legal tech space has really kind of established itself as sort of a known quantity, as something that people recognize exists and understand to some degree, some more than others, that it what it is and what it represents, which is exciting to me because when I first started learning about it, it was a little more of a niche space. I mean, already it still is to some degree, but not as much as it was years ago. But what's happening now is that there's a little bit of a blurring of the line between technology, legal tech, and legal tech partly driven by AI, which is now embedding itself in basically everything. And for me, I never really saw legal tech as itself completely independent from technology. Merely was just a subset of the broader tech space that just had to do with tools and technologies that were more aligned to helping lawyers and legal professionals deliver legal services. And that's how I describe it in many ways. But it's also about people as well, thinking differently about how things are delivered, how tools are created, how people are supported, and all of that. Which goes to sort of the ecosystem theme that I very much am a believer in. But as I just said, yeah, AI right now is dominating the conversation. Not always for good, but more often than not, it is at least highlighting the fact that it's not something to be ignored or taken lightly.
There's been a big shift, and I feel like it hit some sort of critical mass where it could no longer be ignored in the legal space. What do you think the biggest misconceptions that lawyers are having about legal technology and AI right now?
I would say that the biggest kind of misconception is that it's a all or nothing type of thing, meaning that you can either be all in or you can have nothing to do with it. When really, I think there's a lot more nuance to it, meaning that it starts with really, and I've said this before many times on other podcasts and in content, but it's about understanding what your desired outcome is, what problem you are trying to solve. And the better specific idea you have of what that problem is, and the better you can articulate it specifically and quickly, the better off you'll be in terms of evaluating how you solve that problem, how you get to the outcome you want. And so the problem people have, especially these days with AI, given its kind of presence everywhere, is that people think that they can skip over that part and go straight to, oh, well, AI will figure this out for me. I can just turn to it and it'll just know what to do. That's not how this works. It's not how technology in general works. It's not how any tool works. The tool only works because you know how to use it and you know when to use it. And if you don't have that basic understanding, you're not going to get anywhere. It's like using a hammer to solve a problem when what you need is a screwdriver. You have to have the right tool for the job and know what the right tool is and its strengths and limitations. Same with technology, whether it's legal tech, whether it's AI or something else. But the problem is people want to just skip over to kind of the fun stuff. And so that's what I mean by this sort of all-in approach. And then there are some who think this is a diminishing minority, but there are still some who are kind of like, I don't need to worry about it. I don't want to do anything with it. And I think that's also the wrong approach, primarily because AI and technology is not waiting for you to keep up with it. So the longer you wait to adapt, the bigger hill you're going to have to climb to get to a point where you're going to maintain your usefulness to others.
Yeah, it's like trying to get in shape for a marathon and not having enough time because you have
Exactly.
fading shape.
It's like trying to train for a marathon and giving yourself, oh, I can just do this over the course of 4 weeks. Like, no, that's not how that's going to work. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of illusion or delusion about it too. With AI, I'm seeing it marketed sort of direct to consumer. So like television commercials that show it's magic, more or less. And I think people are having that misconception. I've showed up for several in-office consultations to meet with partners, and they want me to plug in the AI. They like think it's a thing that just goes in the server room and just don't like the whole idea
Right.
that we're going to have a lot of actual team conversations before we even think about what we're going to do with technology or AI.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And I talked a little bit the whole idea of this of a server room. There used to be an actual server room. These days, not so much really. Now there are data centers, but that's not the same as a server room as it's traditionally been known as. So yeah, things are changing, but you're right. People kind of just want to think that any technology is just kind of a plug and play type of thing, and that's not the case.
yeah, totally. So you talk a lot about CLM. First of all, what is a CLM, and then what is the best CLM?
Well, so a CLM is contract lifecycle management software. Typically, is a software as a service, and it helps companies manage their entire contracting function. Think about, from initial creation of the document to negotiation of the document to finalizing the document to signing the document, tracking obligations, tracking renewals, amending the document, all that stuff and all the people involved in each part of that process. That is what a CLM helps with and supports, which can often be a complicated process because contracts can get very complicated in a hurry.
Mhm.
This coming from someone who's been a transactional lawyer for most of my lawyer career. As for the best CLM, well, I'm a little biased. I happen to work for one, Malbec. So, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I believe Malbec to be best suited in that space. But look, there are plenty of them. And one thing I deeply respect about Malbec is we're very honest with those that we are trying to work with in terms of their expectations and what we can offer. And if there's misalignment there, we will be upfront and say, look, there's misalignment. We don't think that we're the best one for you, or you're expecting too much from us. That's something I deeply respect because there's so much need for better transparency and honesty within the tech space in terms of the capabilities of these tools. And companies that I believe are leading in that space are those that are most upfront about what they can do and what they can't do and what they want to be doing.
That makes a lot of sense. I talk to providers all the time, and they come up with, we're the only ones that do this, or we're the best ones that do this. And I'm like, no, it looks pretty similar to some of the other ones that I've talked
Yeah, I
to.
mean, I just don't understand, and well, I do understand, but I don't agree with this approach of saying, well, no one else can do it the way we do, or no one else can do what we do. I think a better way of saying that is, yeah, we do what we do and others do it as well. And we think we're, really good at it, but it depends on what you're looking for. Look, we're all, we're very much wanting to be there for those that want to use us. So, if we feel like there's not a fit, we're going to tell you there's not a fit.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You know, you hear that with like marketing as well. People are like, oh, he's the best marketing company, and then got nothing. So it's like setting up expectations. And often I find they didn't even communicate properly with the marketing company. So maybe there's a fail on that side, but maybe it's a fail on the law firm side too, because they did not communicate what they actually wanted to have happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm very much someone who is a firm believer in setting realistic expectations and maintaining those expectations. As someone who, is a lawyer working in house for companies, it's very important for me to be aligned with the expectations of my stakeholders. And so that is why clear communication in transparency is so important and something that I very much am a fervent advocate for, regardless whether it's my company or another company.
Yeah, it's great. We appreciate that. We all appreciate that. So, what do you think about people are talking about like, okay, this is going to replace the lawyers. This is going to completely revolutionize the industry. You know, being that you're a pioneer. Like what's coming up? What kind of emerging trends is going to be in, say, every lawyer's future?
I think that's a great question. Let me first say that I think that this whole idea of us versus it or us versus them is a very myopic way to view what is happening. And this is not kind of a fight or flight type of situation, which I know is kind of part of the human experience is for survival purposes is, all right, is this a danger? Is this a threat? Or is this something that can help me? I think what I see as an emerging trend, and something that I continue to believe is something that will be really very much needed going forward is learning how to collaborate and partner with these tools. If you're just trying to compete with one of these tools, you're likely to perhaps lose, more likely to just not be successful because it's like apples and oranges. You're trying to compete with something that does things in a different way, and it can do some things better and some things not as well as you can. So I think a better approach is to augment yourself and what you do with these tools and complement yourself and your strengths and weaknesses with the strengths and weaknesses of these tools. And so learning how to collaborate with technology and use technology is basically another set of tools in your toolkit that you can turn to when you need is the way forward. And also, it's not just the way forward, it's the way to continue to bring more value to your role and continue to ensure that you remain valuable to those you're seeking to help. Because if you have the expertise to partner with these tools and know when to use them and someone else doesn't, they're going to turn to you versus someone else, as opposed to just kind of delegating everything you do to one of these technologies, in which case you're kind of giving up your judgment, you're giving up kind of your humanness and just thinking that this AI tool or this technology can take over and do everything you do, which in most cases is not the case. That being said, let me add one small little caveat, or not so small caveat, which is that if your job consists of just kind of repetitive tasks that, don't change that much and are the same things every day, doing the same thing the same way, yeah, AI is likely to take over that type of work. So what that means in practical terms for us as humans is it's redefining some of the jobs we have. That doesn't mean it's taking away those jobs per se. It's just redefining exactly what responsibilities we have in our jobs and what responsibilities are part of those responsibilities we're going to have to cede or going to rely on tech to do for us. And the way I look at it is I'm more happy to have some of the things that I just know I can do, but don't want to do, or are going to take a lot of my time and I'm not going to be as fast or as good as a tech tool will be. I'm more than happy to pass that along to that technology because I don't want to do it anyway. I could, but I'm not. It's going to be slower. I'm likely to make more mistakes or what have you. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. I mean, I feel like it's teamwork, and I always say it's like the human and AI team of your law firm, and like how that's going to look, how that's going to develop, how it's going to
Yeah,
communicate.
right, exactly. And that is one thing I think that the legal industry and legal profession as a whole needs more of is more teamwork, more collaboration, because this starts kind of in law school. There's this contrived competition. Everyone is on, to each their own and on their own. And I don't think that is necessarily the right way to win over the long term. It's, this whole eat or be eaten world may have worked for a long time, but technology, I think, is helping to even the playing field a little bit, but also reinforcing this need for collaboration and partnering rather than competition. But that's just me.
I know that's a whole other thing. I've been preaching that for a long time too. Collaboration, especially on like business development front and teaming and making a bigger pie. We can all have more work if we all collaborate and see where we can support each other. But I know it is a very competitive and somewhat siloed type of
It
industry.
is partly, and it's partly by design too. It's just kind of been structured that way historically for quite some time, and and it's worked because people just have conformed to that structure. But again, that structure I think is breaking down a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely been trends in the industry even before this wave of new technology that such an antiquated model can't continue to survive in its own way. So wonderful. What's one question that an attorney listening to this broadcast needs to ask themselves today?
Wow. There'd be a lot of different questions I would suggest, but I think for purposes of this discussion, I think a question I would suggest asking themselves is, what value am I bringing to this role now in whatever I'm doing? What value do I want to be bringing in the future? How do I see myself being a valued resource and partner in the future? And how will technology influence or impact that value that I have now and want to have in the future?
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Again, you're one of the top voices in legal tech. Tell us a little bit about your books and how do we find you to learn more?
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me on. It's been a pleasure. As for my books, you can find the Legal Tech Ecosystem and the other books on Amazon. As for how to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn. Colin S. Levy is my name there. Or you can get in touch with me through my website, colinslevy.com. That's COLINSLEVY.com. I was very good at spelling when I was a kid and got straight A's on spelling bee test. But regardless, yeah, more than happy to get in touch with anyone who might need some help navigating this world or understanding AI and what have you, and have given talks to law firms and legal departments about it. And yeah, look, I'm just here to just help people understand this world better. Like I said, I'm learning about it as well myself.
Yeah. Learning and teaching and all that is always the best way to keep abreast of everything.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. We're in the thick of it. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode of At AI.Law podcast, hosted by the Success Partner, which is myself, Daya Naef. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned.